Welcome to Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast where seeing things differently inspires limitless possibilities. This podcast is being brought to you by Blind Beginnings, an organization based in Vancouver, Canada, that supports children and youth who are blind or partially sighted, along with their families. Limitless was created in order to inform, educate, entertain, and share stories from within the blind and partially sighted community in order to show the world that the opportunities for those who are blind or partially sighted are truly limitless. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce you to your host, the Executive Director and Founder of Blind Beginnings, Shawn Marcellet.
Welcome back to Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Marcellet. Thank you for joining us again this week. We have a very exciting episode. We are talking to an exchange student from Italy who is blind, who's been in Canada for a few months. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And I'm excited to have Keisha as my co-host today because Keisha also has done exchange program things. I don't know if it was an exchange program, but traveled to Australia. So welcome to the podcast. Welcome back, Keisha.
Hi, thanks so much.
And then, of course, way back many years ago, like 20 plus years ago, I also did an internship abroad and worked at a school for the blind for 6 months. So I feel like we all have this thing in common of being blind and traveling far, far away from home by ourselves, which is not something you hear every day. So I'm really excited to connect with you both and kind of talk more about what that experience has been like. Sara, can you tell us how much vision you have? Do you have any vision?
Yeah, I have not a so good vision, actually. I can see the shades or the colors and I can see the light, but I cannot read from something on paper. I have to use the computer and I have to use Braille. And I have a good vision of what is around me, but definitely, I am considered officially blind, so yeah, I can see the light and the shades and the colors, but this is pretty all.
Okay. Do you use a white cane?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Awesome. I feel like people know Keisha and me and our level of vision. So I was curious to know kind of why you both wanted to go abroad. What attracted you to your experiences? I guess actually before we get into that, Keisha, maybe remind me, was it a school exchange thing or was it like, what was your Australia? How did that come about?
So it was a semester-long study abroad in my second year of university. Yeah.
Okay. And Sara, you're in high school, correct?
Yeah, I am in grade 12.
Okay. And it was, how many months have you been in Canada?
Yeah, it is a semester too. It was a semester.
Okay. So yeah, what attracted you guys to this opportunity? Like was this something you always wanted to do? Was it, it's kind of crazy to just be like, hey, I think I'm going to go to another country and do a semester of school. How did that come about? Why don't we start with you, Sara?
Well, actually, the first time that I have known that there was this opportunity, I was in the first year of high school, and an older student told me that he spent 6 months in New Zealand, and I thought, oh my God, I have to do it. First of all, because I really wanted to improve my autonomy and my independence. And I wanted to learn English because my English has never been awesome. So, I feel that to be far away from home and to feel that you have to deal with everything by yourself is something that gives a so strong feeling of freedom, maybe. And I really wanted to experience that.
So cool. So first year of high school, you got the bug, the travel bug. You wanted to do this. That's very young. What about you, Keisha? How did this come to be for you?
Going to Australia, like traveling abroad to Australia has been a dream of mine for a very long time. And like I kind of grew up hearing lots about it. And, you know, I don't know. It always attracted me to go there. And yeah, and I honestly, actually, I go to Thompson Rivers University in the interior BC here, and the part of the reason I chose this school actually was because of the study abroad program, and how like supportive they are, and just like a whole bunch of factors kind of played into that. And similar to Sara, like I wanted to explore, I wanted to push my limits to see what I was capable of, and I just thought it would be a really exciting adventure, and checking out this country that I'd always wanted to go to. It was just a big dream, and it was a lot of work to get there, but it was so like worth it.
So had either of you known anybody who was blind who had done anything crazy like this before you did it?
Yeah, I am the second young girl in my country, in Italy, that have studied abroad. I mean, the second in general in my country, and the first one was a very, very close friend of mine who spent 6 months in France.
Okay, so you knew it was possible.
Well, actually, no, because she is only 1 year older than me, and she has not had a super teacher or the accessible materials for her school. She was in a very bad condition respect to my condition in Canada. That is very, very good, actually.
Oh,
I mean, yeah. She went in a school that absolutely did not know how to deal with a blind student, and that did not give her all the support that she needed to study.
So you had heard about her experience and that it wasn't positive, but you still signed up for this?
Yeah, with a different association.
Yeah, that's impressive. Okay. What about you, Keisha?
Well, I mean, I knew you had done something similar. And
I get, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was part of Blind Beginnings for, years and years. But I mean, I didn't know a ton. I don't think I really knew like a ton of people who had really done it. Definitely it was like trailblazing, particularly for this school that I'm attending. I didn't know of a lot of other like people with disabilities who were from this particular like school who had gone on a study abroad excursion or whatever. I'm sure that there have been, but yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of like breaking trail, like because with study abroad with my institution, there's kind of like a step-by-step process that they help you through. Like there's a lot of support, but there's a whole bunch of things that, as Sara probably totally knows, and like there's a whole bunch of extra stuff we have to put in place to make sure that we can be successful when we're abroad. And of course, that's not a natural thing to address in the average study abroad step by step. So, there was definitely a lot of learning and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing how much more complicated it would be studying versus a work internship, because I mean, for me, I had a friend who was blind who had done the program the year before me, or maybe 2 years before me. And I remember thinking, wow, he's so brave. I could never do anything like that. And then a year later, however long later, I was convinced to apply, but I was terrified. But I didn't have to worry about things like making sure I had books in alternate format, or even learning my way around a campus, because I was working at a school for the blind. The internship was set up through CNIB and the federal government. So because CNIB was involved, there were certain factors that were considered on my behalf. So, but you guys, you're just like, yeah, you're dealing with your schools who probably aren't familiar with all the things you're going to need. So was there like resistance when you applied to do this? Were there people at the schools that were worried about you or didn't think this was a good idea? Anybody told you, no, I don't think so?
Well, I don't know if for the university it's the same, but to be an exchange student in the high school, you have to go through an association, and there are many different associations that give this service, right? This possibility to study abroad. I had to go through 15 different associations to find my association, the association that I came here with, that is Victoria Language and Culture. And that was the only one that gave me the opportunity to study abroad. All the others told me that I could not, that they were not able to give me assistance or accessible books or a super teacher or also an host family, because a lot of people are so scared by what they don't know, and a lot of people would not take the responsibility, I mean quotations, because it's not an actual responsibility to have a blind student in their house. So
yes, wow, 15. Wow.
15, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Keisha?
Oh, that sounds like a lot of work and like pushback. So I found that like my program was, my study abroad program was pretty supportive and accepting. And the institution that I went to in Australia was also pretty, like basically I was dealing with mainly the disability services at that institution, and the like international like student coordinator or whatever. And they were pretty open and like willing to work together on accommodations. Granted, as it is with a lot of things in university, a lot of it is self-driven. So if you aren't you have to really plan ahead and you have to really think through everything, because a lot of these, people don't really know what you need. They have maybe an idea, but really you are the best judge of what you need and you're the best advocate for yourself. So you have to be really prepared to kind of argue that, or just really be a strong self-advocate. And so I'd say that was like the main push was just like figuring out like, what did I need for this? How was I going to acquire the things that I needed and like the supports and resources? And like, how would my resources from university here like transfer over to there? That sort of stuff was a bit like, was quite a bit of legwork. And then like mostly people were like, my family was supportive, and mostly people like my friends and stuff were like on board and supportive and awesome. But, like you get people though, of course, who are like, oh, you're blind. Like, how are you going to do that? Like, I don't know if you should do that. Like, that seems unsafe. I don't know. Like, the usual kind of deal. But, that's just when you put your foot down, you're like, no, I'm going to do it. Like, here's how I'm going to do it.
I remember my parents saying to me when I told them I was going to do this, my mom was kind of like, why? Like, why do you want to do this? Like, I don't understand, why would you purposely do something so challenging, I think is what she meant. Yeah. Sara, how did your family respond when you said you wanted to do this?
My family was very concerned, but they were concerned not because I am blind, but because I am an Italian daughter. I mean, I am their child. I could be 75 years old, but I would be their child. So,
yes.
My parents didn't believe that I was going to do that until maybe the day before or the morning when they drove me to the airport.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, but they always supported me, and I am so grateful because they have never thought about me as a blind person. They have always taught me that I have to consider myself a able person, and then I have to deal with everything that is about my disability. But first of all, I have to do what I want to do without to think, oh my God, I am blind. I could have more problems than other people because.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you say right up until they took you to the airport. And I remember my dad at the airport saying, it's not too late to change your mind.
Oh my God, my mama told that too. Yeah, she was like, you can change your mind. You can come at home with us.
And I was like mid-20s. Like I wasn't in high school. I can only imagine. Keisha, was your family scared for you?
You know, I think they were nervous. It was big. Like it was big. You know, Sarah, your situation, I feel like you're like, it's even braver and like big because you're going to an English speaking country and your English is amazing. But like I'm an English speaker, like that's my first language, and I went to an English speaking country.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
It did help a lot, but still it was big because I was going to the other side of the world. Mm-hmm. And I'd never been outside of North America, and I'd never really lived farther than an hour away from my family. So and they're supportive and they were fantastic, but I'm sure they were nervous. I know they were nervous. They were, you know, like, I remember them being like, well, you know, what if this happens, or what if this happens, you know, like kind of hashing out like situations. And I was like, well, this is, you know, how I would react to this, and et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I still can, you know, the beautiful thing about technology is we'll still be in touch, and I'll make sure to update you and everything. But yeah, I definitely like am grateful for their support. It was, yeah.
About the language, I mean, my host father is Australian, and I can say that the Australian accent is scaring. So I can understand. I mean,
that's true.
Actually, maybe it was a different language.
That's funny. In England too, like depending on which region of the UK you're from, everyone sounds a little bit different, and some accents were harder to understand than others. But yes, I mean, it's still English though, right? Like,
yeah. And I was in this country town called Wagga Wagga in New South Wales, and it's like, it's so funny because a lot of people go to Australia to be close to the ocean. I happened to choose a campus that was actually nowhere near the ocean. And it is deep, like kind of very much country, like kind of sort of Australia. Like it was a bigger country town, but it was still country. And definitely there was, you know, people from, you know, quite in the country who had thicker accents. But eventually I stopped hearing the accent. It's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you were kind of considering this, what sort of things were you both worried about? I remember I was really worried about how I would eat, like such a basic thing, but how am I going to get groceries? Like, will I know where the grocery store is? How will I get assistance to get what I need? How will I get from the grocery store back to my home? Like all these things, that was a really big concern for me. But what kind of concerns did you guys have?
I am a very impulsive person, so I didn't have so many concernations. But when I came here, I started to have concernations. One of my biggest challenges has been to maybe make friends, because I mean, just to be in a big group of people and maybe to not be able to do what everybody is doing. Or for example, to have to meet a group of people somewhere and to not see them, to not see where they are, and to know that they don't know you so well to understand what you need.
Yeah.
So the social aspect has been a very big deal for me, a very big problem for me. But then I started to be more confident. But this is for sure something that I had to fight with.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like it's brave, like traveling during the pandemic too. Like, did that throw extra challenges in?
Oh yeah, I in this moment I cannot leave Canada because of the pandemic.
Oh no.
I have had the COVID 2 weeks ago, and my association is scared that if I would do a test in this moment, I would result positive. So my flight has been changed, has been deleted because of this situation.
Oh.
And yeah, for sure, COVID has been a big problem, but yeah. It is what it is because I wanted to do this experience now. So
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I'm glad you were able to still do it. I was just thinking about this before we started this. I can remember specifically like one night just laying in bed and thinking, oh my gosh, like how am I gonna figure out orientation and mobility? Like just the whole thing, like of my area, and like who do I even go to for O&M instruction, and like how am I gonna like figure out my campus? And I don't know. Also, I was a I was a Canadian being all scared and thinking, what if I accidentally step on a snake or something?
Oh yeah, I'd totally be scared of that.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, what if I encounter like a spider? I don't know. And I just don't see it, and then I like, sit on it or something. I don't know. But anyway,
for sure, this must be a very important problem, actually. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I remember thinking like, oh, how is this gonna work? Like, particularly with the O&M, like the venomous creatures thing was less on the brain, but also because it like, as we know, like with cities, big cities, it's typically easier to get around because transit is typically pretty good in like bigger city settings. But I was going to be going to this town, and our campus was kind of out in the countryside, and it was quite spread out, and it's not a huge population of students, but a big spreading campus, like sprawling, and lots of like agricultural students and classes, and so and I remember just thinking like, okay, this is gonna, like, I'm gonna really need to work on making sure I have these things in place before I travel, and like, really trying to track down these resources and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I got picked up at the airport and driven to the school, but then it was a Friday afternoon and everybody left, and I didn't know anything. And that first weekend, because my job started Monday morning, that first weekend was kind of like, I guess I'm not leaving the building. Like, I don't really know. I think, and I had a roommate. She was from Alberta, so I didn't know her previous to getting there, but we at least had each other to kind of bumble our way around. She was also visually impaired, but yeah, that whole like, how do I get food? That was a big one, right?
Well, and I remember like when I did manage to arrange orientation and mobility instruction with the help of like disability services on that campus, and actually Guide Dogs of Australia was the organization that helped me. I didn't even have a guide dog back then. I was still a white cane user, but they just were supporting people like that if necessary. And I remember being just so grateful at just the presence of that O&M instructor walking up and being like, hey, like we're going to work on some roots, and what do you need? And I was just like it was like water in a drought. I just remember being like, this, like I couldn't be more grateful for this, like for you giving me the independence to navigate this campus and help me like just settle into this setting and figure out like how I can get to like the dining hall, get to my classes, which were like a 20-minute walk away across like a giant hill and stuff. And how can I get to all these places? And I've never even seen this campus before. I just remember being so grateful to see this person.
Yeah.
Did you know it's like plus 40 weather that day that we were doing O&M, and I was just like, I didn't even care. I was just like, please, let's work and just let's like nail these roots down. Like we're gonna get there.
Were you staying in residence, Keisha, or with a family, or what was your living situation?
I was living in residence on campus, which was really, really helpful.
Right.
This is one of my biggest dream, like to live in a campus with a lot of other students. It must be amazing.
Yeah, it's a great way to make friends as well, and just like network. Yeah. Yep.
So now that you're coming to the end of your time here, Sara and Keisha, when you reflect back, what was the hardest part? So like there's all the things you worried about, but what was the most challenging? I guess you mentioned the socializing, Sara.
Yeah.
Was it mobility for you, Keisha, or was it something else?
I mean, there was a lot of things like that. Yeah, like O&M was definitely challenging, but I kind of expected it to be. Like it was it's just kind of part and parcel of the whole thing when you're visually impaired in a new setting. I think, I don't know, yeah, I think like there was like a period of time where I like went through like the homesick stage, and like I remember kind of missing home, like kind of being like, even though like this was my dream and everything, it wasn't. Like I also had like an amazing time, and I'm so glad that I did it. Like it definitely didn't detract from my time, but I remember it being kind of like tricky. And
yeah,
and then just like I think I think probably though, like navigating and whatnot, and was probably one of the most challenging parts.
I was reflecting on that for myself, and I think it was just the first week or two of like not knowing anybody yet and not knowing anything yet about how things work here or where things are or how to access things, and learning my way around. And I remember like the first couple weeks of my job, like being in the staff room and nobody was really talking to me very much. And like, I had to figure it out. And then, once I got in the groove, but then I was there over Christmas, and that was kind of hard to be away from my family. I remember calling home and I could hear all the chaos at my grandparents' house, and I was, I was not there. And just like, there were moments, definitely. Sara, have you been homesick?
I have been homesick the first month, but not at Christmas. I don't know why. I have been very, 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 very homesick the first month, but a lot. But I mean, then I started to think that my family is waiting for me, and I will meet them soon, and I am doing this experience that I love. But for the first month, it was very, very hard, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that initial part is probably the hardest, because like you get there, it's like the first like initial time is really exciting because it's like, oh, it's so novel, and then it's almost like a couple days in, it's like that's when for me, like I think that's when it started, where I was like, like there's a lot of things there's still things to organize and still settling in. It's no friends yet, and just like kind of figuring it out, right? And I think that's transition period.
I couldn't figure out how to work the computers. Like this was back before the days when I had my own computer I was bringing with me. So it was like there was a library with all these computers, but I couldn't log on because I didn't have a password, and I didn't even I think I figured out how to make a collect call from a payphone eventually, but like I couldn't even communicate with my people back home and I hadn't met anybody yet. So yeah, that first weekend was tough, but it got so much better. So did you notice a difference in how people who are blind or partially sighted are treated in, you know, where you in your visiting country from your home country? Did you notice a difference?
Well, yes and no. People always look at me as people look at me as an alien. I don't know.
As an alien?
Like
Okay.
yeah, something that they don't know and they are scared from, or something that is amazing, so new, so different. But yeah, definitely at the first moment, people are pretty strange, and this is international, I think.
Okay.
I actually did not note the different behavior between Italian people or Canadian people to deal with me, to to speak with me or interact with me. But it's the first moment, right? It's maybe the first week or two, and then they start to understand that you are a human being, and that you are not a strange type of animal that they have to study. So
Yes.
yeah, I didn't note the particular differences.
How about you, Keisha?
I mean, I agree with Sarah that there's always that either there's like discomfort or like over enthusiasm, and then sometimes you get these really cool people who just don't care and they just are they just accept you. And I'm such a breath of fresh air. But I think that basically the way visually impaired and blind people are viewed in Australia is the same pretty much to here. We share a lot of similarities. I think that the resources in Australia for visually impaired people seem to be pretty good, seem to be pretty like strong. They have like pretty supportive organizations from what I could tell, like Vision Australia and Guide Dogs of Australia and other, I don't even know. I didn't even tap into as far as I probably could have. But and being not an international like non-citizen, like there's a little bit less that you can tap into. But still, like I was grateful for the support from those organizations.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was out of school for the blind again. So it's like, it was pretty, I didn't really have to adjust, and I didn't even really get a sense of how the British folks would respond to blindness because I was immersed in it. But when I went back later to visit and traveled around on my own around the UK a little bit more, I did feel I did feel a difference. I felt like there was more, oh my gosh, you're by yourself. Like, like it was more shocking. I remember one incident in a train station where this man left me at the elevator, but it was out of service, and he wouldn't take me down to the platform, down the stairs or the escalator. So he ran off to get help with the elevator, but I figured out there was an escalator just beside me. So I ran down the escalator, and then he found me, and he was like, no blind person should be running down an escalator. But I was trying to catch my train and I knew that I was going to be late if I waited. So yeah, I was a bit of a rebel, I guess, as a blind traveler in the UK at that time.
When I was to the Frankfurt airport to came here, the guide told me to stay in the gate just to wait for my flight, and then she completely forgot that she had to help me. And I was with other four guys that told me, if we don't go, we will miss the plane. And we moved to go on the plane. And at one point, I heard the speaker, like the radio, that called me in German. I understood only my name, and then speaking in German, and I was like, okay, what I am supposed to do in this moment?
Yeah, that's like my worst fear, being forgotten by the person that's assisting. Oh,
well, and like sometimes I feel like similar to both, like sometimes you just have to just be like, okay, I'm gonna take control of this and just like go, because because like sometimes people are like really good at following through, and then sometimes you're kind of an afterthought, so you might as well just get her done.
Yes,
as best you can, unless you're like trying to go through like LAX airport or something, and you're just like, holy smokes, like even sighted people have trouble like figuring out where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, some of the airports in Europe too, it's like different buildings that you have to take a tram from one to the other. I think Frankfurt is like that. It's intimidating, definitely.
A lot of airports in Europe are very huge and very chaotic.
And if you don't speak the language, it's like, that adds another element, right? What if I need to ask for help and I can't communicate that? That's stressful.
Oh.
So I asked about the challenges, but what have been the best parts of this experience for you both?
The best part of my experience has been also the social life, because it has been very, very difficult. But then when I made friends, I really enjoyed the time that I spent with them, and that I am spending with them now. So yeah, definitely this.
That's nice.
I would agree.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you go first.
I was gonna. Yeah, I also. I mean, one of the things I wrote down as my favorite moment was just the people I met. Such an interesting range of people that I never would have without that experience. So I can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely the like making new friends, getting to know people, and just really putting myself out there was really fun. And also just like the adventures, like the excursions. I was like, while I'm here, like I want to adventure. I want to try to see as much of the country as I can. And I was like, and I want to try to do it as independently as possible, but also like, I also like have some cousins in the country. So like, I spent some time with them, and I also made some friends who I like went backpacking with and stuff. And I just like doing like outdoor excursions, like hiking and surfing, and just kind of doing some like cool things, and like checking out especially the nature, because it's such a beautiful country. That was really good fun. And like getting to ride back and forth on the train, because it's a big train country. So it's like that was fun, because I had never like ridden like a passenger train like that before, just like through the countryside. And
you don't have trains in Canada. This is crazy.
We have some trains, we have trains, but they're not really the common method of transport from like one city to another or anything like that. So yeah, nothing like Europe, definitely, or Australia, it sounds like.
But
yeah, I also took advantage and traveled, and I loved how much smaller the UK was compared to Canada. So every Saturday we would go to a different part of the country, and I actually visited a ton of cathedrals, because that was every town seemed to have one. It was kind of like the touristy thing to do.
In Europe, every town has a church or a cathedral. You can be sure of that.
Yeah,
everywhere, churches or cathedrals everywhere.
Yeah, I would buy little replicas of the cathedral, because I couldn't see what I wanted to kind of touch and feel what it looked like where I was visiting, and get instead of a postcard or a photo. But yeah, I saw a lot.
That's actually super cool. And I actually wanted to add one more thing that I really loved while I was in Australia. I mean, honestly, I could go on and on, but I went to a couple of wildlife sanctuaries and got to like be up close with like some koalas and like some roos and like I even got to like pet a dingo. That was pretty wild. Wow. But yeah, like just being able to be up close to the wildlife like that was wild.
That sounds scary to me because I'm a little bit of a chicken when it comes to animals. But I am curious, did you have any encounters with snakes or spiders or any of those vermin?
So actually, when I first got like other people I'd talked to, like I told them like I was like, oh, or like Aussies I hung out with, I was like, well like what about like the snakes and the spiders? And they're like, oh man, like don't even worry, they're more scared of you than you are of them, like which is what we always tell people coming in about bears and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, nah, just like tap out your shoes and like, you know, wipe out your bed and stuff like that.
Yikes.
And so when I got there, I remember just for some reasons, one of my family members, like he was like, we watched these videos before I left. He decided it would be a great idea as a bonding activity for us to watch spiders on YouTube in Australia. And then when I went to Australia, for some reason, I had this idea that there was just like, there could be spiders in the toilet. And, and then like somebody told me like in my dorm block, like that there'd been like a redback, which is pretty poisonous, in the toilet like a couple days ago. And they're like, but it's no big deal. And I was like, that's a big deal to me. And like, I would go in and like, I'd take my cane and I would like slap like the toilet. And like scare away the spiders, and I think they all thought I was insane. And then that behavior kind of died out, within a month, because I learned that actually there really isn't as much. The venomous creatures do actually stay away pretty good. And the other thing that I was really comforted by is like, in terms of snakes, like typically they're not trying to hunt you. And vibration like drives them away. So like the sound of your feet, or like I had my cane, so that made me feel comforted, because I was like, oh, they'll feel the vibration of my cane, so they'll know like to go away. But I often wonder to this day, like I wonder if there was like snakes and stuff that I just didn't see because I didn't see.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes do not see is the best.
That's true. That's so true. Your toilet story reminded me of, that was one of the most challenging things of being in the UK was that how to flush the toilet is so varied. Like sometimes it's a chain hanging from the ceiling, which you wouldn't expect. So like just finding the flusher.
Oh my God, I am so glad that somebody has this problem too, because I'm like, why?
It was really hard. I never found the flusher on one of the trains when I used the washroom on the train. I'm apologies to the people who came behind me, but
I never even knew that was an issue. That's crazy. I've never been to Europe, so I don't know.
Oh, you must go. But yes, good luck with the toilets. And some toilets in London, you had to pay to get in to use the toilet. And so I went through and I went into the washroom and I was blinding my way around looking for the stall, and I ended up coming right back out again without going. I just got all turned around and I didn't find a stall. I just found my way back out and I was like, wait a minute, but I didn't go. Do I have to pay again?
Oh, no.
I think they let me go back in, but yeah, that was an experience.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Sara, were you worried about seeing any wildlife here that you don't have back home? Was that a concern, of bears or cougars or anything like that?
Well, I have a funny story. Sometimes, when I go to friends' houses or something like that, sometimes I came at home late in the night, and I was speaking about this with my mom, and I was telling her, oh yeah, Nelson is a very safe place, so you don't have to be worried about that. And she told me, yeah, Nelson is a very safe place except for the bears. I am not concerned about that, but my mom's biggest concernation is that I meet a bear when I came at home in the night. But I think that in this moment bears are sleeping, so it's fine.
You're okay now. Although I was in Nelson in February once, and we went dog sledding, which was amazing. But there was a cougar in the tree nearby. That also was very scary for me. But we have cougars here in the city in Coquitlam, so I don't know. You can't avoid them anymore.
I am very one of the biggest stereotypes about Canada is that you are full of beavers, but I have not seen a beaver since when I am here. So
I do actually want to know though, Sara, is there anything that you've done in Canada that you aren't able to do at home, or that you were like, oh, this is something really Canadian that I want to do, or just like a new experience?
Oh yeah, ice skating and the ski for sure.
Ooh. Did you go to skiing up at Whitewater?
Yeah. Saturday and Friday.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Is that downhill or cross country?
That was cross country, but Tuesday I will also do downhill for the first time in my life.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, so fun.
And also most quiet activity is the gingerbread, to make gingerbread houses. We don't have this tradition in Italy or in Europe, so
cool.
I was very happy to do that.
Well, that's nice. Was the Christmas tradition kind of stuff, aside from gingerbread making, like, was that similar? Do you do Christmas trees or?
Yeah. We probably we celebrate Christmas more than here, probably, because Italy is sadly a very religious country. So we have, for us, Christmas is very, very strictly correlated to Christianity.
Right.
Well, not for my family, but in general it is.
Okay.
So we celebrate it more than here, but you have fancier decorations. Like your Christmas lights are prettier than ours.
Nice. Good to know. Well, so what's next? I mean, when you go home, Sara, what are you looking forward to? But also, like, what trip do you want to take next? What's next for you?
Well, I don't know. I feel that this summer I would really like to do a voluntary service experience abroad. So maybe 1 month or 2. I don't know. This is a dream, but I hope to be able to do that. For sure, I don't know where. I mean, maybe in a country where they speak English, so I can improve my English, because actually it's not so good. Or in France or Germany, or I don't know where, but I definitely want to do a voluntary service experience this summer, and then in university I hope to study abroad.
Wow!
Yes.
So you're not done. You're just gonna keep going.
Yeah,
with the travel. That's cool. And I think your English is fantastic. So
yeah.
Thank you.
What about you, Keisha? You got any travel plans?
Oh yeah. As soon as the world allows, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many places I want to go. Like, it's hard to choose, but I definitely would love to go back over to Australia, and I also would love to go to New Zealand. Check that out next time, and like the Indonesia, Vietnam, kind of that whole area is cool. I would also love to go to Europe though. If I'm ever in Italy, I'll have to contact you if you're around, Sara.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Oh, me too. I have been wanting to go to Italy forever. That is absolutely on my bucket list. I love pasta.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like my absolute favorite food. So I just think I need to go to Italy. Well, Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me for this conversation. It was so cool to hear about your experiences. I think I want to go to Italy, but now I also want to go to Australia. And I'm assured that the snakes are afraid of me as much as or more than I'm afraid of them. So that's encouraging. Thank you for being here.
Thank you too.
Yeah, thank you. And it's also so great to talk with you, Sara.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast. If you have a question, a comment, a future topic request, please send us an email to limitless@blindbeginnings.ca. Please share our podcast, leave us a rating, and join us next time.
This podcast has been brought to you by Blind Beginnings, an organization based in Vancouver, Canada, that supports children and youth who are blind or partially sighted, along with their families. Music for this podcast is composed by Shawn Bishop and Clement Chow. Production and audio editing by Rob Minot. For more information about Blind Beginnings and the work it does to support children and youth who are blind and partially sighted, along with their families, visit us on the web at www.blindbeginnings.ca, and also remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.